Welcome to the Double D Do Business podcast by RLC with your hosts, Dave Evans and Debbie Halls-Evans, where they meet each week with guests and discover ways you can help yourself and others become best version businesses, teams, and people.
Welcome back to Double D Do Business. I am here with
Debbie Halls-Evans.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah, that's right. I'm Dave Evans. With the new jingle, it's a bit odd, isn't it? Actually not doing what we've done for the last however many episodes. But we are both really excited today because we've got some esteemed guests with us, haven't we?
We have.
A presidential-elect, I'm told, Debbie.
Indeed. Of the female variety. Sorry,
yeah. of an accounting firm, of course. If anyone's thinking it's...
Not of course.
It's not, of course, no. So we'd like to welcome to the podcast, way overdue, the wonderful Doug and Cynthia. Where are you from? What part of America are you in?
We are in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. That is my hometown. I've lived here for a lot of years.
I like that.
Just a lot of years.
Yeah. Long enough.
And is it your hometown too, Doug?
No, I grew up about 40 miles from here in a very small town.
What's it called?
Kingfisher.
Kingfisher.
Rural America. Yes.
What a cool name of a town, Kingfisher. Is that like these television programs that I really love, where there's all these little small towns and all these white clapboard houses, everybody knows everybody?
Well, I don't know about the white clapboard houses, but everybody knows everybody is absolutely true. Kingfisher was really good for a couple of reasons. It had its own phone company and it had its own electric company. So we didn't ever have a downturn in our economy because many people inside the city town worked for those two utilities. So it kept it pretty strong all the time.
Oh, wow. And when did you move to Oklahoma?
Well, Kingfisher's in Oklahoma, but I moved to Oklahoma City when I became an adult, after college. So
That was only about 10 years ago, Doug, right?
Yes. As you can tell by looking at me, that was just a little over 10 years ago.
Is this the impact of the tax profession, allegedly?
I'm telling you, that part is true.
So Debbie and I have been debating, Doug and Cynthia, the name of our podcast. So Double D Do Business, Debbie, has got a lot of attention, isn't it? And a lot of humor around the meaning of one said part of the name.
What, Dave and Debbie, Double D?
Yeah, so, from the very first conversations, do you know what Double D also means from our kids and then some of our other American friends? And we go, well, yeah, we do. But if there's something we've embraced as a business is to be intentionally small and intentionally impactful. And that, part of that was accepting the impact we have both on our own teams and those that we now lead around the world. So, but we were questioning it. So RLC is about creating best version businesses. So we were challenging that and saying, does the podcast name fit with it? And then we discovered a secret that we want to talk to you about in a second. Debbie, what was that secret?
I have no idea.
The word do.
All right.
Thanks, Debbie. So the word do, I think, is a change maker in business because you either do or you don't do, right? So I want to ask each of you a question.
Before we do that, Dave, so are you saying now that the double D stands for do and don't do, or does it stand for do?
That's a good point, Doug. Well, if it carries on like this, I'm going to be in the do with Debbie, right? So it's still Dave and Debbie, and the do is the key word in the middle of the
Doug, it goes like this. So it was Double D Do Business, but actually, because we don't ever talk just solely business, so it's Double D Do ... and then whatever the theme of the topic is. But the do bit is the bit that I'm thinking that Dave's attempting to kind of go down as a theme today.
Right, and I'm clearly having challenge with it, which is another theme I talked about. So I want to talk about what's one of your memorable moments in business, Doug? So something that stands out to you that you had to do. So is there a particular thing? I actually do know. You have shared.
Right, well, just let him answer the question, Dave.
Thanks, Debbie. Go, Doug.
Well, I mean, I don't know which specific thing you're talking about, but we want to work with people that allow us to work with them in a more than just an accounting basis. And our biggest thrills are when we're working with somebody and it comes back and they say, "You've changed my life. You know, you made things so much better." And we could give numerous examples of those, but the one I'm thinking about the most is a person that he's a hippie friend of ours. It's a client now, and he he didn't even have a personal bank account. He just ran his personal stuff through his business, and we were able to sit down and move his personal stuff separate from his business stuff, get him to bill through a software program and find out how much he was really making running a business, and taking his personal stuff out of it to find out if he was actually making money or not making money as a business owner. And we really changed his life, and he's been very appreciative of that. He's told us about it several times. I talked to him today. It's a relationship that's grown well beyond just providing a tax return or a set of financial statements into something that's much, much deeper in a friendly way. And he's been able to grow a business that's very successful. And he's been able to bring his child in, who's a grown man, into his business now to have a legacy. So it's really, really great. And we like to see those types of relationships develop and blossom over time. I hope that's something you wanted me to talk about.
That's wonderful. It's almost badass, Debbie, isn't it? It's almost badass, I have to say. We'll explore badass in a second. So, Cynthia, what's something that you're proud of that you've, got to do in business?
Right. So actually, the one Doug just talked about was one I was more involved in than Doug was. So I'll talk about one that Doug was more involved in, and that was.
Cynthia, did Doug just get the feedback then? Is that what actually happened?
We all work it together as a team, and we, through your help, we know that we are team members. We're not staff. We're a team, and that truly is correct. But this particular one, I'm going to brag on Doug a little bit. It was a client that he helped, a couple that was going through a divorce, and it was a really bad time for both of them emotionally, and they were taking it out on their business, which was about to be catastrophic for everybody involved, and their 9 children, Doug.
Wow.
And through that, I say we very loosely, it was really mostly Doug who was able to hold both of their hands through that situation and focus them on what was really important, and that the business that they owned needed to survive this divorce, even though they were going to be running it together. So Doug actually took over. It was a court-ordered mandate.
Wow.
But it was something I thought Doug went over and above and literally changed that person's life, and both of those people and the children involved, if you break it down to all the components. And the business is thriving to this day.
Yeah.
And I want to say that particular client comes in, he makes a point to come into our office
Wonderful.
every month and thank each one of us personally for what we helped him do.
And that's where boundaries of business can really sometimes get confusing, can't they? Because most people, or some people, might have said, "I'm not going anywhere near this," and you were able to lean towards them and actually work it out. I think that's brilliant.
It's also why I've lost a lot of my hair, but
that's right. Nothing to do with the air quality in the city, Doug, and the tax seasons. Nothing.
Absolutely not. Or having kids, or any of those other reasons.
None of those elements, no. They don't age you at all, any of those things.
No, not at all. So let's move on to you both work together. You do have a brilliant team. You are one of the most hilarious group of people I've ever worked with. And that's meant with from the bottom of my heart, right? So some of those meetings we had in the early days, weekly, were just, Debbie, you'd listen to them, wouldn't you? And you go, they're crazy, in a nice way.
I actually never said that. What I said was, I didn't know how you did work, even though you all seemed to do things.
Yeah.
I didn't know how you actually got around to doing it because all I heard was laughing. So, and I'd say every time, how are they doing stuff? Because they never said like you're doing anything, but you were always actively doing. So,
well, it's really important to sit back and have a good time. We spend most of our waking hours with our team members, and I just happen to be married to one of them, and my children are both also on our team. So of course I want to be at work because I get to see my family and work with them, collaborate with them, and it's been a lot of fun for the last several years. Doug and I have worked together, my goodness, I don't even know how many years, Doug.
14.
A lot of years together. We met, we both worked at Grant Thornton, and that's where we met. So
I didn't know that, by the way. That's new information for me.
Yeah, we knew we could work together.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
How does your world today contrast though to Grant Thornton? So we know them from the UK stance. Those are two. Your world, they're so different, aren't they?
Completely different.
Yeah, it's utterly different.
Yeah, when I first came out of accounting school, I got my degree and went to work for the big firm. I felt a little lost, and I just thought I didn't like accounting. And then I went to work for a smaller firm. It was not Doug, it was a different fellow here in Oklahoma City. And it was basically the two of us in the accounting firm. And so we did everything.
Yeah.
We did, phone calls and making coffee and making copies, and there was no job too small.
Yeah.
And I learned something really important from that fellow. Every time he was on the phone, he would say we, the word we. Even if it was me and I made the mistake, he would take the ownership of that because we were a team. He didn't use the word team, but he used the word we. And I, to this day, every time I'm talking about something that we do as a firm, I consciously think of that man and that word. So and that's when I thought, and he taught me, sorry, Doug, but he taught me everything I knew up to that point.
And by the sounds of it, you then trained Doug with that knowledge, and then which enabled him to save the world.
Doug is brilliant. He really is a brilliant tactician. And I do learn something from him almost every day. But up to that point, I learned it from my previous boss, and that I learned to love accounting again.
Well, I'm glad you did, because our worlds would never have collided. So if that hadn't happened, if you think about sometimes, I sometimes wonder, how did everybody we have ever met end up in our lives? And actually sometimes it's like a spaghetti junction. You go, how did that happen? And you remember who introduced you to who, but it's life is a collage of great relationships when you've got the outlook you and Doug both share. Now, there's something cool about your firm that I like. You're the only accounting company that's ever come up with this, that you decided to declare to the world you're badass accountants, right? And I even the other day, Debbie, Doug was quoting, we want to go from good to badass, right? Which is a fantastic aspiration. And I think it's right, because Debbie and I both would agree that the industry really does need to, be brought into the modern day that tomorrow's customers are part of. And I love the fact that you're bridging that gap with your thinking. I'd like to know, what does badass mean to you? So let's go to Doug first. Doug, what is badass all about?
Well, badass. Well, there's two parts to badass. Being a badass accountant to us, to me.
Yeah.
And the first is internally. You know, I don't know what it's like in Europe, the UK, but in Oklahoma and the United States, there's a stereotype of accounting, and it's boring. You know, we're introverts, blah blah blah, and that's not who we are. Not at this firm.
Yeah.
We have fun. We enjoy working together. We laugh a lot. We've learned to laugh at ourselves. If you can't laugh at yourself, life is really hard. You know, we spend a lot of time here and we do a lot of important things, but you got to have a good sense of humor about it all. And you got to be able to get along with the people you work with, and you got to be different. And badass to me in that respect is being different, being beyond the stereotypes, being beyond the boring, being beyond the, you know, pencil pushing little lamp on the desk with a little visor on my hat, which I never wear a hat. But then, of course, being badass with our clients is to be different with our clients too.
Yep.
I mean, we could be a typical firm and provide a tax return or a set of financial statements or something like that, and we do those things. But if that's all we do, then it's a matter of pricing or something else that you have to be able to provide to be distinguished from everybody else. And we're not that way. We really care about the people that we work with, their lives. We really care about what goes on in their businesses and how that impacts their lives, their families, and things of that nature. And we hope that we're a lot deeper in our relationship with people than here's your tax return, we saved you $20, you know, or something like that. And so we want to be a badass accounting firm because we want to, you know, to provide more than the stereotype that you see from CPA firms, the stereotype you see from accountants or CPAs, and impact people's lives and impact our team members' lives.
I love it. That's really important. So let's go to Cynthia. What would you add to that?
I would add a couple of things. First of all, we're always searching to be better than we are, for more knowledge. This has been, I don't think you'll hear another accountant say this has been the most unusual year that has ever been. And so we're very fortunate to have people and structures behind us that can educate us and be a support system to us, because we are a smaller firm. We don't have an internal group that's searching for all those answers. So we're always looking, you were talking about relationships. It's all about relationships. And so we're very fortunate in that way to always be searching for the best answer for our clients. And Doug has his strengths and I have my strengths, and they work symbiotically in our firm. So we're just always looking for that best. We want to be the best, have the best knowledge. So that, to me, that is badass. And then always, if the biggest compliment I can get is for somebody to say, well, you don't seem like an accountant.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for.
And
So
it's
it could
real,
be a little
right?
bit different.
It's for real. The amount of, we've met loads, haven't we, Debbie? And it's the opening line. Yeah, I'm not your typical accountant. And then I noticed that they're wearing chinos, blue jacket. And I go, are you sure? Right? And it's not personal. I go, there must be an accountant section potentially at some of the, you know, Sears or something, or any other retail chain, right? But the thing is, for me, Debbie, I like the fact that both Doug and Cynthia are what you're saying. You have that about you, and you show it, you show up with it, and I think that's brilliant. I mean, you're the only leadership team I know in your industry who've gone axe throwing as a team. I remember when you first told me, I'm like, you can do that, and yeah, absolutely you can. And who's the best at axe throwing out of the two of you?
Oh, without a doubt, it's Doug. They asked for him to join the league the last time we were in there. He's really good. Yeah, that's the other thing is we let our team, that Doug and I are not part of this. We let our team decide what our monthly activity is going to be. And so that was one that our team came up with. And it was not anything I would probably chosen, but we all show up and we all have fun, and we don't say, well, this isn't what I wanted to do. We're there, we're together, and we're trying something new. And that one was definitely something out of my personal comfort zone. No. Yeah, I think the last time I went, so I tore my rotator cuff last year. The last time we went, I had to do it one-handed, and I did not get one single axe to get into the board. I could not do it one-handed. But you know, we still had fun.
That's incredible. What was you going to say, Debbie?
No, I was just commenting that it's a badass activity. So it's kind of, you know, I've never done it. It scares the living daylights out of me, because I just think they're going to bang the wall.
I'm pretty sure there's beer involved. So if there's beer involved, then.
Well, we know that Doug will be there if there's beer involved.
That's right.
Don't know that.
Yeah, we're actually literally on top of a brewery.
Very good.
Right now. Yeah.
I do have to say, I love the new offices. I so love the new offices.
It's a work in progress, for sure.
That's why I like them. I just say I saw you right now. That's badass office, by the way. That's just really good. Anyway, I digress. Sorry, Dave.
No, there's a shop, isn't there, on the way into Edinburgh? There's a Nordic shop, and in the window there's this miniature. I wonder if it's still there. Miniature axe throwing set. We might have to buy it and then do it on a podcast as a tribute to your company. I think we should do miniature office axe throwing. And if there's more than one, we'll send it to you hidden in the mail in a box, so you can have it in your office like this. Right. So the other thing I like about you both as business owners, you have a huge heart too. So I'd love to talk for a moment about some of the stuff you do outside the firm, Cynthia, because when we were at the consult training last year in Denver, as you may remember, we were overstocked with food by our hotel company, or understocked with food by the place we were staying at. And but it did give us a chance to do some really great things as a group and take food out to the streets and feed the homeless who were on the streets in the city of Denver. And that was one of the best fulfilling memories for us, to get to do that with some of you. Doug, you and I went for a walk together with Owen, didn't we, and stuff. So that was cool too. So talk us through some of the stuff you get up to outside the firm, Cynthia, as well.
Right. So I am missing it right now with the COVID. We have suspended our homeless outreach, but most of the year, warm, cold, hot, whatever it is, raining, we're out with a group. It's a nonprofit that I work with. Actually, it was a client of ours, and they asked me to be on the board, and that was in 2008, I believe. So I would go to their quarterly board meetings, and I would hear about all the things they were doing. I love that word. They weren't talking about how to help the homeless. They were just doing. We didn't know what we were doing or how to do it. We just did it. And we get in a car, and there's usually 4, and we're all women. So 4 women that go out and we call them our friends in hard places. And most of them we know, and it's a relationship. We give them a sandwich, a bag of chips, and a cold drink. And it's really not about the food. It's about the relationship building and finding out what our friends need in that moment. And sometimes it's just a kind word. In fact, it's not sometimes, it's all the time. All the time. It's just they want to hear that they are a child of God, and that they were put here for a reason, and that somebody loves them.
I love the fact that you take the time to do that in what is still a very busy lifestyle, and you're finding the time to care. And, you know, we saw and read about in London, didn't we, Debbie, how most of the homeless were housed and taken off the street. There were a few that wanted to go back. Is that right, Debbie? But how much was it?
There's 25% of people that want to go back because that's their lifestyle. And for some of them, that is their own sense of security. And confining somebody, and I think the biggest thing out of it is you should never assume what somebody desires, wants or needs. And I think that's been great. But the fact that we say in society we can't help people, but actually when we're in a time of crisis, then we can always help somebody. But we do it without judgment. And as you do, you know, we build a relationship and we care. We genuinely care because we do something about it. I'm not liking a social media post, actively going and doing something. And I think it's really powerful because it will have a lasting impact. I always remember a statement that somebody said that, and it was King George to the now Queen of England. And he had said to his daughter, just remember, whatever you say, the person who receives your comment will remember it for life. And it's that whole thing of, and that's because she's the Queen. Of course, if the Queen spoke to me, I'd remember what she said to me, but it's that actually we should all remember what comes out of here has a massive impact on the people that we interact with.
That's so true, Debbie. So true. Go on, Doug.
Well, you said something that was very important because, and I want to be careful because in the United States, the majority of people believe that you take care of your social needs by you write a check or, you know, put something on your credit card. You don't actually do anything. And it's really, really nice that people in our office, our team can take time off during the work week to provide services back to the community. You know, we've been blessed by the community. We've been blessed by God, and it's nice to be able to give something back. And we want to keep doing that. And I don't want to say that making a contribution to a nonprofit or to a church is not important. It's extremely important. But if that's all you do, you're missing out on some of the best blessings in life, and that's being able to go out and meet people face to face.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, from my understanding and the research that I've done around it is most people don't because they're actually quite fearful. Yeah. And that it's easier to do the behind, here's a bit of money or here's a like, maybe that'll help. Because most people are scared of it. Most people are scared of the unknown. We don't know what we don't know. So.
And Debbie, is a business tip for people. It's the same on LinkedIn with the algorithms that make you get noticed or not. A like makes no difference. The view doesn't really change much. Views will drive something. It's the comment and interaction that makes the difference. And that's why I think we were talking earlier today on the social media front, and you can do a whole session just on that. But sometimes you can easily hate it because it's that superficial piece that's not always the sincerity that was intended. And sometimes you can't tell which is which. And therefore it should just ditch that view temporarily. But if you can make the human contact difference and then go back to the word do again, you can have a badass effect. There you go.
But I think it's the whole, the balance for me is that, as a business, you've got to decide whether you're going to do it or not. And you can't do it, like you've just demonstrated, Cynthia and Doug have just said about, we allow everybody else to go and do it. So It's not, I'm not forcing them to do it, but there's an opportunity. And by being part of a community, which is the badass building relationships, adding value, caring more, taking action. I've written it all down, consider it, do build relations, do add value, and actually just doing that little bit more. I think one thing that I've known about through COVID for us is that there is always time to do something. We've convinced ourselves that we're so busy, we can't do this, but actually we're never that busy that we can't do something to help somebody else.
And I think this has also shown us, Debbie, the lack-a-do.
Right? The lack-a-do.
The lack-a-do. Because
is that a new word?
New word, yeah. We just made it up today. But the thing is, the amount of clients I've spoken to in the bigger companies we also work with, well, they've been asking questions, scratching their heads and going, I just don't know what it is, Dave, Debbie. We have to say to them politely, I think what you're discovering in a home working world is how lazy people actually are. And therefore, let's not just say that everybody is. Let's just accept we're all much lazier than we thought we were. So you're actually starting up much more than, am I coping with the situation that I'm in? And hopefully when they go back to work or back to their normal or new version of it, they'll realize that they probably had up to 30% more capacity in most industries to do an awful lot more outside of manufacturing. But I think that would be Lackadoo, yeah. It's true though, because you try otherwise, Doug, you try and make sense of it, right? You go, huh? No. They just have a lot more inertia than you thought they did. No, somebody said that to me today. I'm terrible with procrastination. I think it was Mark Sunderland. I didn't have enough time to say to him, Mark, it's as simple as diarize your inertia, prioritize your procrastination, and you'll automatically do less of it. And he went, most people don't understand it. It should just be in your schedule, Doug, right? This is when I'm not doing anything.
Well, I think it's somewhat ironic that in a time where we have more people working remotely, which we allow remote working before COVID happened, but we have more people working remotely now than we did before, and we're getting more work done.
Yeah.
A lot of big is that we don't
have. It doesn't have to go the other way. If you're intentional, it can get better. But
and I think that's what people have found. I read a really great report the other day about doing, and it was, we're not working from home, we're just working in our homes. And I actually think that definition is really important, because it isn't, some people might choose to continue to work in their homes. But I think it's really, sorry, Dave's just posted somebody, if you're intentional, it can get better.
I just writing it down. I heard Doug say that. I thought that needed to be isolated.
Well, maybe you do. But I think it's people then realise that they can do many things. We just choose not to. And there's loads of great stories. There's loads that we've got. One client was telling me how he'd convinced himself, you'll like this one, Cynthia, he'd convinced himself that him and his wife weren't really getting on, and, he'd go to the gym on the way to work, he'd go to the gym on the way back, he'd avoid time genuinely with his wife, and then COVID happened, and we talked about it, and he said, do you know what? I don't know why I've convinced myself of these facts. We have had nothing but the most wonderful of time together. They've taught, they've stopped together, they've walked together. He's now not doing this massive commute, and he's actually going to change his whole lifestyle so that he will work from home 3 days a week. He'll go into the office 2 days a week. And that to me is amazing, because it's also that whole thing about, I don't do it because I've convinced myself of this other story that never even existed. It didn't exist in his life. It's an incredible story, but there's lots of it.
Some might say it's badass, Debbie.
Some would say that.
It's badass.
So I know we have to start. We could talk for ages with you guys. I know we're attempting to wrap up our podcast episode, but I'm going to ask you in a moment if there's one last tip or idea you want to share from your perspective. As I do, Debbie, you've got a little bit of a recap there already. So if you can do the recap for our listeners in a minute. If you're listening to Double D Do Business today, it's really exciting to talk to Doug and Cynthia from Oklahoma City, or Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Doesn't matter which way you say it, it's the same place, right? And to share with you how they do things in their badass accounting firm, where they pass the authenticity test of being completely badass. Now, so Debbie, is there any recaps that you have there before we come back to Doug and Cynthia one more time?
Well, just the fact that we have a new word in our RLC dictionary, lackadoo. So lackadoo is now going to be used regularly over the future. And I do think there's the element of doing, and it said is, if you do, and be more intentional in your doing, it can get better. I've just stole that off Doug. So yeah, and I think the biggest thing about doing is the adding value, taking action, and building relationships. All of those things have a massive impact on business, personal and professional. So why aren't we doing?
Good question. So Cynthia, is there one last thought, idea you want to chuck at us before we wrap up today?
Yeah, it just came to me. I think you need to surround yourself with people that will tell you how wonderful you are. So thank you guys. you brought my confidence level way up today.
Good, that's what we like, yeah. We're doing value right now. That's what we're doing.
It's true, Debbie. It's true. And Doug, a pearl of wisdom on top of that belter you just let out.
Well, before the pearl of wisdom, Lackadoo needs a dog, a mutt, as a
Mascot?
logo or something
Okay.
like
Caricature,
that, because it sounds like a name of a dog. So I love that word, Lackadoo. I think I'm going to adopt it too, but you need to put a little dog.
No, I'm going to register and trademark it and copyright it before you get chance.
That's right. Debbie, Lackadoo.
Slow, I already did it while we were on this call. No, I'm just kidding.
The new website, go to www.lackadoo.com.
Yeah, learn how to not do absolutely anything.
I was going to, so for my little pearl, I was going to say that, it's something that you talk about all the time, Dave and Debbie, and that is, the soul food that you give to people. We need to give it more, give it out intentionally. We need to take the time to tell people that we work with that we appreciate what they do, especially now that they're at home or somewhere else doing a lot of their work. We need to take the time to tell our spouses that they do a great job, especially when we're spending 24 hours a day with them now, in many cases because of the COVID situation. Those types of conversations just build up a stronger team and allow you to do more and allow you to get away with making mistakes and allow you to get away with having a bad day, an off day or whatever. So those are just critical to making things work and to have a badass firm.
I love it. What a great summary. And I think as a final thought from us, Debbie, it is so important, Doug. You said it, soul food, absolutely 100% certain. It's so true. If you want your people to believe that they will become better, it's soul food that's going to allow them to make that transition from hearing you to starting to believe. So I'm so glad you called that out, because that's so true. Remembering, as Blanchard says, catch people doing things right. Debbie, any last thoughts?
No, I think it's been good.
So thank you for listening to Double D Do Business. Every success with your learning. And I think I'm going to just ask a question before I shut up. There's the recording button. Speak to you all soon.
You've been listening to the Double D Do Business podcast, brought to you by RLC and sponsored by CoachPad, the coaching tool built for you by coaches for coaches. If you would like any assistance or help for what you've heard today, please feel free to get in touch with us at info@rlc-global.com. That's info@rlc-global.com. And we would be delighted to hear from you. Wishing you every success with your learning.